Welcome back, everyone, to the HNL Movement podcast. Today, we have a very exciting episode, and I've been looking forward to this for a long time because we go way back, all the way till I first started as a volunteer student athletic trainer. And we have none other than Kanani Danielson today. So thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to everything that we're going to share today.
Super excited.
Yes, and no introduction needed. You had a historic career at UH and went on to play professionally, and we're gonna get all to that in this episode today. But before we do that, we're gonna try to jam pack everything about your story in this episode. So we're gonna try not to waste any time, and let's get straight into share a little bit about growing up and how you found volleyball and what other sports did you play growing up too.
Okay, so yeah, I would say it's since I was little, like maybe actually from baby time, once you learn how to walk and stuff, because my mom used to play in the bank leagues when that used to be a thing, and I would be that kid that would be against the wall with the hali'i on the ground with all the toys, and literally while my parents are playing, I'm on the side. And then as I got older, then I'm the one hitting the ball against the wall, like just watching whatever that my parents are doing, and any kind of tournaments or that my family's part of, I'm always there. So I was that typical gym rat, you know, I'm always in the gym. But my first sport actually was softball, because my mother, she actually grad from Lelehua. So during those times, Bobby Sox was huge, right? And my grandfather, her dad, was one of the coaches. So softball was huge in our family, besides volleyball, but softball. So by the time my mother got into the flow of volleyball, it wasn't until high school, but that boom, that became her first love. Like it was always softball, and then boom, out of nowhere, volleyball. So that's kind of like how it started with me. My mom put me in Bobby Sox first, and then I don't know if you've ever heard of it's in Manoa, the MGAC. Okay. Yeah, so my grandpa, the same one, actually decided to put me in there because they had the different sports. Okay. So I had softball, volleyball, and basketball as my three that I was always a part of, just so I can keep busy. And my grandfather is the sole reason why I was very much into sports, because he definitely was practicing with me after school. Just anything I wanted to do, he always would be there to practice. And he did the same thing for my mom. So unfortunately, he passed away when I was only 10 years old. So imagine where we could have been at if he was still with me getting to college. But that's okay, because my mom was the next one to step right in there to help me along the way. So right after the MGAC of the three, I realized softball wasn't my thing. As we got older, I think a lot of it was the pitcher was starting to pitch legit, because you know, with the younger ones, it's the coach tossing, right? Yes. So I'm like cranking home runners. I'm like feeling cool, loved first base. But then after it got to the actual pitching, I was like, ooh, not for me. Got it. So for a while, it's always just been basketball and volleyball. I mean, till this day, I love both sports. I love to play both sports. But as we got up to high school, my parents sat me down and said, hey, you need to figure out which one you want to pursue to get a scholarship. You know, so literally right when I got to 12s, my parents didn't really know that there was club volleyball, to be honest. Okay. Yeah, so they definitely were informed by a family church friend. Okay. So from there, the Satellis. Got it. So Chantil, that's why we go way back. Yes. We both grew up in Word of Life Christian Center, the church. So definitely, you know, whatever that they had in mind is because they were in the volleyball world way sooner before I even knew club existed. Yeah. So I was at the MGAC side, you know, where things were a little bit more easier and, you know, tailored for everybody to do well. But the competitive world, club ball, everything was more introduced when I got to 12 years old. And then that's how things kind of progressed in the club world. Got it. I mean, that's typical in Hawaii, right? We're typically around sports, even if it's indoor court sports, you know, year-round playing sports with family. So that's how people get started. And we try all these different sports when we're growing up. Yes. And I think that helps us in more ways than we realize, especially when we hone in on our specific sport. But I do always ask the question to the younger athletes because, okay, we saw what you've done as an outside hitter. Right. And
I mean, relatively for Division One, you're a shorter outside hitter.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
But you definitely make that up with your jump, everything else, volleyball IQ and all of that. But growing up, were you always on the taller side? Were you someone that had a later growth spurt? Or did that factor into the decision to play volleyball and basketball, I guess, besides your passion?
It's a great question. Honestly, I was like in the middle. I wasn't the tallest. I definitely wasn't considered short. It was just a little, I guess, hard to even know what should be my choice of sport, because I started to realize how basketball, school, and club volleyball started to mix. So that was starting to become a problem time-wise. But honestly, I started off as a setter.
Oh, okay.
That was my first position to try out. So I wasn't, out of all of the amazing hitters that came out of my era, I was not in that realm of learning how to hit like them. So it took me a very long time to not perfect my hitting skill, but just to even learn.
Got it.
So I started off as a setter, and then that was middle school. And then by the time I met Coach Deb, so for jammers, then I started to become a hitter, and then it kind of just took off from there.
Got it. What position do you play for basketball?
Basketball, honestly, I stopped more in like middle school, so
Okay.
I who knows where they just threw me wherever, because I was usually just fast, so I just got through it, and I could have been, remember height-wise, so they either had us at the post, they had us at the guard,
Yes.
I could do point guard, but I'd rather just be one of the forwards, but
Got it.
yeah, it was so much fun, even though I fouled out a few times, but because I would go over and jump, I didn't realize my bounce was considered an overreaching when I went to rebound.
Yes.
So that was interesting.
So that was my next question, and you kind of brought it up there. Were you always someone that naturally could jump? Was that one of your strong suits growing up, even from middle school?
Yeah. But I didn't realize, because I wasn't a hitter yet, of the mechanics to be doing that. So basketball was the only thing I could realize that, like how we do a slide for volleyball, doing a layup. That was pretty much like my only ways of realizing how high I could jump, and then learning how to hit and realizing what I could do as I got into high school was fairly interesting as we incorporated weightlifting.